The Vegas Golden Knights have had a little bit of a bad stretch recently. Although the All-Star break has occurred and we're in the middle of a little bit of a weak break during the middle of the season, the Vegas Golden Knights certainly were struggling and almost looked like they were beginning to implode right before this ended. So I want to talk a little about what's kind of going wrong for this Vegas Golden Knights team and, what's causing them to stumble so much. So if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. It truly means the world to me. But let's not waste any more of your time. Let's go and get right into things. The Vegas Golden Knights currently sit at the 3rd seed in the Pacific Division. They have not landed at that spot for the entirety of the year and just barely got knocked out of the 1 seed of the Pacific just a few weeks ago. Now, I did make a video about them kind of stumbling early on, but it's really getting close to a point where you're wondering if they're about to just implode on themselves and cause a huge, huge downfall. Last year, something similar kind of happened. They were the 1 seed for a good portion, all the way up to the beginning of the new year, and magically at the new year, they kind of fell off and ended up missing the playoffs just barely. It kind of seems like they're on the same situation. As mentioned, the 3rd seed in the Pacific means you're 1 spot above the wild card, but it's a lot closer than a lot of people may have expected for how good they were looking. For most of the year, they sat atop the Western Conference and the Pacific Division. They fell behind the Kraken earlier last week, and now they also sit behind the Kings. Now, not only that, but they're only a little bit in front of the Oilers as well as a couple other teams that are just right on the cusp of potentially overtaking the Knights with a few bad games for the Knights and a few good games for them. It's possible the Vegas Golden Knights could fall into the wild card in the next coming few games after the All-Star break, or even completely out of the playoffs in just a few weeks if they can't get some things going. Now, with all this happening so fast, there's a lot of questions about what's really going wrong, and is it anything that's really controllable, or is it just a little bit of bad luck in this stretch? So, since the new year, the Vegas Golden Knights have been 4-8 and have struggled a lot, even against a little bit of easier teams, and really have struggled to just get really anything going. So first, I think one of the biggest issues is the fact that the Knights have been failing to score in pretty much every game. Not only have the Knights scored 1 and or 0 goals in a game of 5 of their 12 games this new year, so nearly half, they've only scored 1 or less. Not only that, but they've only scored above league average, which currently sits at like 3.17 in 3 of those 12 games, which is just horrible. 25% of the time you're scoring above league average since the new year. All these stats are going to be based on those recent 12 games since the new year when they went 4-8, just so you know, so I don't have to keep repeating it. 3 games above 3 goals in that time period, 5 with 1 or less. That is not good by any means. Of course, that's going to leave you with 4 games where you score 2 or 3, which is still below league average. Not good by any means. But in the last 4 games, the Knights have only scored 2 goals once in the last 4 games. It just somehow keeps getting worse. The Knights haven't been able to really get anything going on the offense. And I know Mark Stone being out is definitely a big factor. He just had surgery. It seems like he's out indefinitely, potentially for the whole year. Certainly not a good thing. That's your captain. That's probably one of the most important people on this team for, cognitive reasons, like as a team, all that, but also for playing ability. I think he might be the best, or at least in the top 3 best on this roster. Of course, with Jack Eichel being there, is also arguably for the number 1 guy, but Eichel's been in and out as well. This team just hasn't found consistency for most of the year, but especially recently. Each time Vegas has scored over 3 goals, they've done a great job and they have won. And they're 1-1 when scoring only 3 goals. So every time they score above league average, they win. And when scoring right at league average, they're 1-1, which means, you're doing really, really good when you're playing average. And you're winning these games primarily because of what you're doing on defense. But defense has also been struggling a little bit. Now, this dry spell is bound to happen at times. For every single team, you're going to have periods where you're not able to get the goals that you're normally going to get. Your percentage is going to come down, whether for players or a whole team. You're not going to get the power play opportunities that you're normally getting. A lot of things are going to happen. You're going to hit a dry spell. And honestly, it's better that they do it now in the middle of the season than late in the season or in the playoffs, as long as they can make it there. But it's still a little bit stressful for it to be happening at this current moment. Now, on the other side of things, Aiden Hill, Logan Thompson, and this defense have also begun to struggle a little bit. Not as much as this offense has, but still enough to be noticeable. The Knights have only allowed more than league average in 4 of these 12 games, which is a really, really good stat. 4 of 12, 1/3. So like 34% of the time you're allowing above league average. That's a really, really good number, which means your actual average is somewhere around that 2 mark, which I'm not exactly sure what it is right now. But even with that, even with 4 of 12 games only allowing above league average, you're still in 4-8. That's just not good at all. And 4 times, the goalies have had less than a 90 save percentage. And, that's not good at all either. 90 save percentage puts you in the backup position. And 4 of these games, even Logan Thompson, who is a definite start, an all-star this weekend, is also contributing to some of these struggles at times. And along with that, the Golden Knights are 4-1 when allowing 2 goals or less. So they definitely have shown the ability to be really, really good. Now, they've had no shutouts in this time period, but 4-1 when allowing 0-1 or 1 or 2 goals, that's really, really good number. The fact that they did lose a game where they allowed 2 goals, I think it was a 2-1 loss, and that was within the past few days, or past week here, I guess. Now, it doesn't fall solely on the goalies in this situation. The defense, of course, is a really, really important matter in blocking shots and all this, although the Vegas Golden Knights are still number 1 in block shots, if I do recall. I'm not putting it so much on the goalies, although they could obviously do better, which would lead to more wins. I think most of it's going to be on the offense, but, the Knights are also, constantly playing to the opponent's level, and I think that might be the worst factor in all of this. Although it's good, when you're playing a top team, if you're playing at their level, because that means you're playing at a top level, the fact is they don't maintain that. They play a team up here, like, the Penguins, who they just beat recently, or the Avalanche, and they beat both of those teams at the start of this stretch in the new year. They beat both those teams, they play their level, they win the game, but they're also playing teams like the Coyotes at the bottom of the league, the Ducks, all these teams at the bottom of the league, and they're losing these games. The consistency is just, there's none of it. They're all over the place. Really, really good playing against really, really good teams and just horrible playing against bad teams. It doesn't make any sense. If they could just find a little bit of continuity in all this stuff, it would make a huge difference. I mean, even if, you don't play to the top level of the Avalanche, who record-wise maybe not as great as they actually are, or, the Penguins and the Bruins, maybe if you're not playing to their level and you lose those games, but you're playing right below them and you can steal a game here and there, and you just maintain this level, your record is going to be so much better than if you're all over the place. I mean, even if you're beating these top teams, but you're losing to the bottom teams, your record's going to fall somewhere around that 500 mark. I mean, I'm seeing that currently with the Bulls. I'm a Bulls fan. That's kind of what they've been doing, and I don't want to see that happen with the Knights. And I do believe in this Knights team. They can beat these top teams, and they could definitely be able to beat the lesser teams. There's no reason why you can't be able to do that. And if the Knights could just be a little bit more consistent, it would be really easy to say that this team's a contender, but it's really hard to argue right now, especially with the fact of how quickly they've fallen from the 1 seed all the way down to nearly in the wild card. Now, with all this being said, the All-Star break is upon us, and I think that's going to be a huge thing in this moment. So that's something that I'm just going to touch on real quick before this video ends. The All-Star break, it's kind of like the bye week for football, although everyone's taking the bye week at the same time. There are some players, of course, that are participating. You have, Logan Thompson, who I believe is a starter, and is that it? No, I think somebody got moved into rotation after an injury. I'm not 100% sure on that. So there's a couple players going to be participating in the All-Star break for the Vegas Golden Knights. But for the most part, a lot of these guys need to just take some time to rest and still, participate in practice and, get their shots in and hopefully raise the percentage that they've been performing at recently. But a lot of it, I think, needs to be rest. I think these guys are getting worn out as the season progresses. 82 games is a long time. Everyone in the league's noticing that right now. But the Vegas Golden Knights, just they really need to use this because I think they're one of the biggest struggling teams at this current moment, especially of high caliber teams, and they're struggling by so much. If you can get some rest, take some extra days off here and there, be prepared to travel, get your legs back underneath you, I think that can make a huge difference. And hopefully once this team comes back from this bye week, they're going to immediately get their legs underneath them and get everything working and progressing in the right direction once again, because all it takes is, another 12-game stretch where they're, like 8-4 or 10-2, and we completely forget about the fact that they were just 4-8. That's how quickly we kind of forget about things. If they can get back in a roll, no one's going to even touch on this by the end of the year. So if they can figure it out quickly, they're going to put themselves in a really good position. So with all that being said, yes, the Vegas Golden Knights seemingly look like they're about to implode on themselves, but I still think that this team can be a contender and we'll be able to get some stuff figured out after this All-Star break. But what do you guys think? What do you think is causing this issue as of late? And also, do you think they're going to be able to re-correct and get back on track through the remainder of the year? What do you guys think about that? If you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. It really means the world to me. But as always, I hope it's awesome today. Hope it made you smile. Hope it made you laugh. Some really important to me. Affects tomorrow's day in a great way. And as always, you guys all be safe out there.